Evet, combat. Tekrar oynuyorum combat'ı. Şüphesiz ki başarısız olduk. Ne yapacağız ki şimdi düşünüyorum da. Abi şu ikisi çok boktan bir combat pozisyonu almış durumdayım yani.
Ay.
Bu sefer iyi taktik yaptık ha. Biraz daha iyi yenleştik. Şimdi atıyor musun? Bu ne, kaç saniyesi var bunun? 2 saniye dominate. Dominate de dominate bile değil yani. Resmen rezalet ya. Bir tane daha dominate atar mıyız be abla? At lan! Buna koyayım, at diyorsak at yani. Ne sikeyim senin ya. Geri zeka, aç şunu.
I hear we've lost the anchor. The angry one is down. Someone might want to check on him. I'm blinder than a horse-pox cat.
Ya siktir git.
Ready, Watcher. Ready, Watcher.
İn lan!
My thoughts were dull.
Lava room beyond sea.
Atacağınız işi de, yapacağınız işi de sikeyim sizin ya. Tamam, şimdi en azından birini düşürdük.
Your thoughts must float.
Hangisini atladı ya? Ben onu anlamadım. Judge. Headsman'i keselim o zaman. Kafamız rahat etsin. Şuş! Abi sen ölürsün. Öleceksin.
Looks like Durancy's flame just went out. Damn. My thoughts.
Yeah.
My thoughts were dulled.
Oo, bayağı güzelmiş bu.
Need something?
Good. Feel the sound.
But
İndir şunu ya.
better than a whorepox
Ready,
bat.
Watcher. Damn!
Your thoughts must flow deep.
Nereye gidiyorsun? Nereye gidiyorsun?
I should
Öl lan öl!
extinguished. My mind
Öldü. Vallahi öldü.
feels sharp as steel. Your thoughts must flow deep. Indeed.
Point the way. Got an arrow for this one.
Abi kalk. Kalk. Şunları kaldır. Yoksa işimiz yaş. İçtin mi?
Hı?
Bunlar burn atalım ya.
My mind feels sharp as steel.
Aa alot kalkmış. Alot kalkmış lan.
Lava will be on seek.
My mind feels sharp as steel.
Lava will be on seek.
My thoughts were dulled.
Wood and roll.
Petrify yedi mi? Yememiş. Hadi be abi at. Yemedi. Üf, yemedi.
Wood and roll.
Abi ne var ya abi ne bileyim. Dabi dabi du. Bitirdik bütün büyüleri. Bounding misil istemiyorum ya.
Lava will be on seek.
Vallahi alıyoruz. Villahi alıyoruz. Vallahi alıyoruz.
Almost.
Hadi oğlum. Hadi az kaldı. Ver lan elektriği. Ver elektriği amına koyayım. Ver.
Lava beyond seek.
Ver bunu çak.
Lava room.
Haha! Grieving Mother. Koyduk mu? Lay lay lay lay lay lay lay lay lay lay lay. Üçüncü seferde de oldu. Üçüncü denemede oldu. İkinci seferi kaydı aldım da sildim sonra. O kadar sinirliydim ki. At your feet rest the body of Thaos. Hollow and dense, frequently shaped by the silent shouldering of an eternal burden now smoothed across his color-drained face. His soul remains still for the moment. Defenseless, its energy expanded in defeat. It lies sprawled across his body like a death shroud.
That's the servant down, and the mistress still to go. A good start, worthy of being built upon.
Vallahi koyduk mu?
I hope this is the end, but what's to stop him from being born again with the same ill intent? And before you suggest the option, no, I'm not eating his soul. I'll put almost anything in my mouth, but not that.
Pis boğaz.
After journeying for lifetimes, I can't imagine his failure. Knowing it was all for nothing.
Bayağı uğraştı ya.
Thousands of souls he has tortured. Would that he could live those sufferings 1,000 times himself.
He's spent his lives, more than any of us will ever know. For what? Binding the world to a lie. Could a man like that ever be redeemed?
Thaos'un ruhunu gezintiye çık. With a deep breath, you plunge into Thaos'un soul. Pardon, şuna girmeden önce şey düşünüyorum da. Kesinlikle pozisyonlamak çok önemli takımı, cidden. Thaos'u sallamayıp, gerçi sallayınca Thaos'u indirip Thaos ruhunu atladı. İşte o zamana kadar Thaos yardırıyordu, indirdi bari, dürüst falan indirdi ama düşününce indirdikten sonra birbirine düşürmek hiçbir işe yaramıyor. Bir tanesine odaklanıp indirdik. O sırada ikisini de tankladı yalnız. Helal olsun herife. 2 potion, 3 potion götürdü ama o potionlar bugün neymiş abi, cidden. Neyse. Sonra bunu indirdikten sonra onları bir teker teker indirdik ya. Vallahi öyle oldu. Neyse, evet. Derin bir nefes alıp Thaos'un solunun içine girdik. And where in Brackenbury it had been a maze of narrow corridors and dead ends. Now it's inexpensive and borderless, its walls crumbling it into heaps like the ruins angry as you pass through them. You travel for what seems like ages, rushing to the known destination, a memory you glimpsed once before. At last you see it, no more than pinprick of light at the end of long tunnel, expanding slowly at first, then quickly as you near. You came out in the room you're standing in now, but in it is new and pristine and filled with people, thousands of them, all turned towards the great quadruple and machine that encases it. Thaos stands at the machine, and you are one with him now. You look out of the crowd at faces of shriveled old men and shriveled little girls, out mothers mouths in front of children, restless hands, and watching you is with somber acceptance. A woman with tears in her hands gives you a small nod. You turn back toward the machine, your breath considered. Keman, dur. Weight of unwanted knowledge. Preparing yourself to set alone on a journey without end. You close your eyes and open them again to find the machine still in front of you beckoning. You take your place in the front of it and place your hands upon a large mechanical disc at the base of the great crystal column and speak a single word. Ah! Giant ring creaked to life, building speed, setting arrays of covered draconic mounts aglow and sending tremors through the platform beneath you. The entire room shakes now with the force of accelerated machine, all centered around it, the defining throne. Brilliant tendons of light arc or crowd burning down brightly like hot iron. One by one, the tendon disappears, leaving ashen effigies where people once stood. Many of them disintegrating into grey heaps under the stress of remorse. Her konuşmamı bekliyor Ali Kemal. Look above the other pillar and glowing superluminous. Evet. Gross and pulses, bubbles like arc of light. When the last dark disappears, the spectral mass hangs on you, no longer rotating, so bright you must shield your eyes with an into the hand, and it seems to you as totally looking at you. You bow your head in acknowledgement, and you look back up to see it melt into the pillars like warm candle wax. Wow! The pillar flares with a flash of light, bright as the sun itself, then fades to darkness. The machine slows down at a good halt, and when the elastic of grinding cogs has passed, the chamber is still, and you are alone. For a moment, that reality begins to bleed in, and you find yourself in yourself. Vay be. Bir daha bir hızlıca göz gezdiriyorum ki yanlış kaçırdığım bir şey olmasın önemli. Hop yanlış tıklamayayım da. You sense a listlessness to Thaos's soul, an overwhelming fatigue that hinders its immediate escape and makes it vulnerable to manipulation. You feel as through your victory has given some kind of hold of it, and you are able to do it as you please. Return to cycle. You will remember this Thaos. Oha. Ne yapabilirim? Thaos'un ruhunu cycle'a geri verebilirim. Ruhunu çek al. Sana emrenmiyorum Thaos. I of all people realize the slave memories can hold. It's time to you. Sana barış zamanı. Ruhunu buraya hapsedelim. Thaos X Arkanon. Buradan kaçamazsın diyor. Yaşamayı hak ediyoruz, hak etmiyor değilsin de artık bir hapsetmekse istemiyorum. Parçala Behçet ya. Parçala. Ruhunu hadi git ya. I of all people realize the slave memories can hold. It's time you were granted peace.
A quick end. This is a mercy.
Reach its soul and you can feel its fragility in defeat. Its texture like horses and disintegration. Structure forms bound together by nothing at all. The minute you dedicate your focus angle idea and the idea is shatter. You concentrate, you feel force building within your soul and outwards. Chat. Stillness that follows. A single word echoes through your mind. A word that spoke when you were with Thaos in an ancient memory. You realize it is the word that activates the machine. Onu bir anda aklıma geldi. İyisin abi. Bir kamp yapalım mı? Ben buraya bir save atayım ya. Oyun bitti oğlum, oyun. Ben şu autosave'in olduğu yerde save atabilmeyi çok istiyorum. O autosave'e dokunmayayım, son kayıt. Konuşmak istiyormuş benimle biri.
Ah, the end of the road greets us at last. You fared well, Watcher. Better than any Watcher has right to. Seems you were afield in need of a flame's cleansing. Would that my own trial had produced such an outcome. I had figured myself for the field all this time. But you were the field, and I the darkness. A lesson neither of durance nor of Margaret. But with that trial's end, a new one begins. A God's trial. And I will stand in judgment without mercy.
Yürü be. Adam God of War çekecek kendine. Kendi spin-off'unu yapacak. Durance spin-off'u. Oha, herkesin konuşacak bir şeyleri var. Sagani.
Never thought I'd see something like this in my travels. Lends a little perspective, doesn't it?
To think the decisions Engviden made thousands of years ago still shape our lives today. It would be shame to deny these souls the chance to find their own way and their own purpose. Şimdi ne olacak? I guess that's up to you, isn't it? Because I'm too short to reach the controls on that thing. Ay yerim seni. For all I know, when you flip the switch, that thing blasts us all for as far as Nasdaq. Whatever happens though, I'm glad we journeyed together. Ben de espri yapayım. Seni evine götüreceğimi söylemiştim. So did you. It's been honored to levels. Craving Mother.
Thaos may be gone, but his crimes, the wounds he has inflicted, remain. Yet before you lies an opportunity to heal, to restore. Only through the healing of families, repairing the bonds between parent and child, reforging the shattered links between generations, can the dear would be knit whole once more.
Hatta haklısın.
People will long remember the legacy. Let them also remember the healing that followed.
Gracias.
Victory looks good on you. There was a blur about your soul that lingers no more. Seems putting Thaos to rest has given you some measure of inner peace. Of course, now you need to decide what to do with these trapped souls.
Ya ben karar vereceğiz. But I speak out of turn. This is your decision, my watcher friend. You should trust your own instincts. I'm honored to have been a part of your journey, regardless of what happens next. A lot.
Astounding. I always knew the Leaden Key stood for something big, but I didn't quite realize what I'd gotten myself into. And now, you're in the middle of something even bigger. The decision that will affect millions.
Çüş, o kadar milyon kişi var mı?
But even if you send the souls somewhere specific now, who knows what the next turn of the wheel will make of them? We can't really control what happens to them. Nor should we try. I had to see the monster Thaos had become to realize that.
Allah Allah, ilginç bir düşünce. It's your decision of course, and whatever you decide, I'm glad our paths crossed in gladly. Var mı lan? Loot mut, bir kılıç mılıç bir şey düşeydi o. Dattiri dat dat dat dat dat dat dat dat. Dur, slow mu? As you approach the machine, the paths underfoot suddenly changed the cobbled road. If you hadn't experienced visions like this ever in Theorem. Ha, tamam, Power Iron'daki gibi oldu. Skyen mi? Skyen, what the fuck are you doing here? Standing next to you, modern man clad in his entire body, but you notice something wandering down the road. Ne diyorsun ya?
You know the bitterness of servitude, Watcher. The sting of the lash on your back, and scalding rage in your chest as you watch your masters grow fat on your toils. Oil and wine dribbling down their chins while blood runs from yours.
So?
You have labored at the pleasure of others. That shriveled hag in Hadrat House. Those preening soldiers with more taste for silk than steel. The wretched tribesmen playing out their fantasies of grandeur. And then you cowered and knelt before the gods themselves, begging one paltry favor and receiving riddles and visions in response.
Sakin ol. Harbi öyle oldu.
And now the gods give you orders and commands, even while you set out to fix what they cannot. Yet what have they offered you?
Ulan sen de oradaydın. I get the feeling this is his way of giving you new orders on behalf of his new master. Be careful with this. 5 copper says he's about to sell you on his own agenda. Only Will knows that. That might be. If I were you, I'd tell him the other guys offers us a dozen nibble laces. See if he can match that the haggle from there. Giving the brother.
The exiled queen is not an ungrateful patron.
Yok. Sky, sen de şimdi çaktırmadan ona çalışıyormuşsun, orospu çocuğu.
Finish the work Thaos began. Strengthen Woodica with these souls and allow her to become the most powerful of all the gods, with you as her favored.
Yani bu kadar zaman favorite derken ne demek istediğimi soruyorum yine de. Bıs. Ya bunca zamandır Vodica'ya karşı çalışıyordum, yani tut da şey yapıyordu, şimdi mi aklına geldi ya? Loyal'dan weak, Thaos proved his inadequacy falan filan, yani o beceriksizmiş, sen hallet falan. Yok, Vodica'ya yardım etmek bu tanrıların gizemini saklamama neden olur. Safe leading, yes. From the violent overlords. Senin yap bakış açını sıçayım. Ne biçim tanrısın. And Thaos makes a better overlord. This one is a good god of slaves. What would he have left it world unchained from the mistress' lies? I explained the alternative which should continue as a pawn of the gods or a partner of one. Sana yardım etmeyeceğim.
You say that now, but when you're standing in front of the machine, considering the lifetimes and the powers that await you, we'll see what you do.
Görürüz. Kırık kemikle geldi lan Alut buraya, yemin ediyorum. Yalnız şu eleman 1000 HP harcadı şurada 2 tane öküz danaya. Helal olsun ya. Tıkladım, niye böyle uzun sürüyor? Save mi atıyor acaba? Herhalde save atıyor ya diye düşünüyorum. With your companions bearing witness, step up to the place where Thaos once stood before his people long gone. The great machine lies in front of you, idle, ready. You've seen the machine, the others like operation. You understand how it works. Falan filan. As a watcher, it was simply matter of influence, that direction. Machine. Az önce öğrendiğim kelimeyi söyleyelim. Bu Berat'ın istediği, Hileya'nın istediği, Rimgrat'ın istediği, Galavayn'ın istediği, Galavayn, Abidon artı şeyin istediği, Hadi lan Voidica'ya geçmesine izin veriyormuşum. Siktir et. Bu da şeyini Vael'in istedi. Ben kesinlikle Hile'nin söz verdik, gerçekleştireceğim bunu. Close your eyes, expand your perception output. Yani çok güzel. Çoktan seçmeli option makineymiş cidden ya. On the game, yes. But at the moment that you dedicate your entire being channeling.
At your command, the ancient device became your instrument, spinning to life with deafening resonance and gathering up the swirling essence like thread on a great spindle. There, in the pale, pulsing glow of the machine that set you on this path long ago, you summoned all your strength, focusing on your objective and blocking out all else. With a single concussive blast that rocked the chamber and sent you tumbling to the ground, you freed the souls from their stasis. Exhausted, your consciousness slipping away, your last sight was of the machine, dark and dormant. Then your eyes closed, and sleep welcomed you at long last. After coming to and searching for some time, you discovered the route Thaos used to enter Sun and Shadow, and embarked on a long and arduous ascent back to the surface. You emerged in Ter Evron after days of tunneling through the rubble Thaos had left behind, and when you stepped into the daylight, you were faced with a different Deerwood than the one you had left.
Allah.
At your direction, the souls diverted by Thaos were guided back to the vessels originally meant for them. For the first time, parents of hollow-born children woke to the cries of their infants, and looked into their eyes to see them staring back. People fell to their knees where they stood, thanking Helia or Mogren, or even Aethys for their forgiveness of whatever guilt they felt they bore. But for all the relief that had come to some parents, others only found new grief. For many thousands of Hollowborn had died during Wideone's legacy, many by their parents' own hands. For those children, there would be no homecoming. Yet the last Hollow birth was in the past now, and those parents willing to risk trying for a new child were frequently rewarded, often with twins. Many felt they saw Helia's hand in it, and the year would be remembered as the year of Helia's splendor. Lord Radric's zeal had brought him back to life once, but it would not do so again. Radric's destruction at your hands spelled the end of his suffocating rule over Gilded Vale and the surrounding area. In his absence, the village prospered, becoming a popular destination for new settlers anxious to leave Defiance Bay after the riots. Without a nearby ruler, it also grew more wild, with many settlers moving on as soon as they'd arrived, turned off by lawlessness that was excessive even by Deerwooden standards. Nevertheless, despite the challenges of living there, Gilded Vale had survived, and would continue to survive for the foreseeable future. Following the assassinations of Duke Avar Wolfgren and Lady Webb, Defiance Bay was thrown into political upheaval. In the ensuing weeks, the streets had become the domain of looters and blackguards. Few dared to step outside their own doors alone or unarmed. But order was soon re-established by the Knights of the Crucible, who, despite their depleted numbers, had gained favor in the public eye for their role in unraveling Wideone's legacy. They were quickly reinforced by returning forces from Fleetbreaker Castle. Having seen both the ills and the promise of animancy, internally the Knights quietly began a more cautious exploration of the new science. Depleted in numbers but bolstered by their newly forged stock of soul-augmented weaponry and a small contingent of forged knights, the Knights of the Crucible would soon become an order few in Defiance Bay would dare to cross. But the opportunity to build upon their newfound power proved too great a temptation for the High Justice. What was at first a measured approach to animancy soon gave way to a rapid buildup of armaments. The High Justice would eventually seize control of the city for his order and place Defiance Bay under indefinite martial law. Though the machine atop Ter Noaneth had been disabled, it had not seen its last use. Heritage Hill was rebuilt, and no sooner had the first families moved in to resettle the district than members of the Leaden Key, acting under standing orders from their Grand Master, climbed the tower and reactivated the machine. The initiates slew a handful of the new settlers under cover of night, and watched as history repeated itself, the victims reanimating and devouring the survivors. After this second incident, the district would remain abandoned.
Hadi be, ben burayı
The Duke's
temizlemedim mi ya?
assassination at the apparent hands of an animancer had caused catastrophic rioting in the streets of Defiance Bay. But those who had escaped the melee in the palace hearings remembered the testimonies of the strange guest who had shown up that day and absolved animancy, implicating the Leaden Key instead. The rumor spread quickly, and soon the popular belief was that the assassin had been a Leaden Key spy.
Güzel.
When the legacy had lifted, people came to see it not as a sign that the riots had been according to the god's wishes, as Thaos had hoped, but as a confirmation that animancy had never been the source of the problem in the first place. Deerwoodans instead convinced themselves that the riots had somehow purged Defiance Bay of Leaden Key spies, and that the end of Widewind's legacy was their well-deserved reward. The rage against animancers was quickly forgotten, and those who had survived were permitted to return to Brackenbury Sanitarium and rebuild it so they might resume their studies. The fortress of Cadnua emerged as a bastion of security in the midst of an untamed land, becoming the envy of every thane and earl in Deerwood. Legend grew over time of its impregnability, and stories of formidable invaders easily scattered by the keep's defenses became popular around the hearths of Deerwoodanians. Likewise, it also became a beacon to travelers, merchants, and visiting dignitaries alike. Reputed as the finest fortress in all Deerwood, people would journey from near and distant lands alike to experience its fabled hospitality and grandeur. After the death of the master below, a strange quiet fell over the endless paths of Ardnua. The attacks on the fortress above ceased, Ardnua's silent titan the closest remaining thing to a master in its musty, forgotten passages. Palagina had gone against the Duke's Bell's orders by inventing a new trade arrangement with the Anamenfath to accommodate the recovering Deerwoodan market. With the Deerwood's people still weakened by Widewind's legacy, the Valian republics easily pushed their would-be competitors out of the market. For her outrageous insubordination and audacity, Palagina was banished from the republics. She traveled north in the Eastern Reach, avoiding Valian ports and entering the ranks of the kind wayfarers. Despite her bravery and dedication to those in her care, her strange appearance made her feel like an outsider wherever she went. Adair chose not to return home to Gilded Vale. Through a number of quiet inquiries, he soon found his way into the underground organization of Aethasians known as the Night Market. Ironically, in learning that the gods had been fabricated, Adair found his faith in Aethus renewed, and that his god was neither alive nor truly a god had become irrelevant. He rose quickly through the ranks of the Night Market for his optimism and for his bold leadership, his ultimate goal to make the Deerwood a place that would welcome followers of the Shining God once again. When the dust settled in Sun and Shadow, Aloth looked upon the remains of Thaos Exarchanon, his former master. He saw where the Grand Master had gone wrong and what would be required to undo the harm Thaos had wrought. With a flick of his wrist, he burned Thaos's robe, headdress, and every other symbol of the man's power. Never again, he vowed, should Kith live in fear and blind obedience to an authority they did not understand. Armed with the knowledge and courage he had gained on his journeys with the Watcher, he set out on the long and lonely task of dismantling the Leaden Key. With the Watcher's goals accomplished and his own vows fulfilled, Kanorua sailed back toward Rawatai, thinking on the lessons his travels had provided him. By the time he landed at Tekoa, he understood what his path must be. Standing before the Lore College, Kanorua explained that the tablet he sought had been destroyed, and so a true interpretation of the Tonvi Oratoa could no longer exist. The people of Rawatai would have to create their own. He described the many strange things he had seen in his travels, and announced his intent to pursue the accumulation of knowledge abroad, seeking answers to new questions.
True to his word, Kana soon set sail on yet another expedition, and in Tekoa, his passionate accounts inspired many to follow in his footsteps.
Oğlum ne
With
jenerasyon.
Thaos defeated and the souls released from sun and shadow, healthy children were born once again in the Deerwood. The grieving mother sought a place where she might do penance for the birthing bell. She returned to Deerford, where, to the astonishment of the villagers, she delivered the first healthy child in over a decade. She remained there, and with each new birth, she saw a measure of hope restored to the Deerwood, and a measure of grace for her own troubled past.
Silseydik böyle demeyecektik
Durrance
işte.
used Mogren's strength only until Thaos had been cast from the world, and then swore off her influence entirely. Regret came to weigh heavily on his mind, and a man who had never previously lacked for words or opinions came to embrace silence and contemplation. He continued to wander, penniless and destitute, searching now not for the reason for his goddess's silence, but for a mechanism for revenge. The charred robes he continued to wear as a reminder that he had been burned by his goddess, and not just by the flames of the Godhammer. Sagani experienced the 4 months of her journey back to Masuk in vivid colors. She strove to memorize every moment of her final trip through the Deerwood, Erglonfoth, the Valian Republics, and beyond, preparing to tell her village of what she had seen on her long journey. All of Masuk shared in her triumph, and she felt her pride and elation magnified by the joy of her village. Never again did she doubt the value of her sacrifices. After decades as a long hunter, Sagani finally became one of Masuk's most respected elders. She guided her community with wise counsel, and a generation after she finally passed, another huntress journeyed into the world to find her soul.
Helal ya.
For you, the death of Thaos brought an end to your waking visions, and a silence to the whispers of the past. In their absence, you were able to sleep. The questions of a distant lifetime ceased to trouble your soul. All that remained was what to make of the answer. But at the moment, there was little to be done, and the matter would have to wait. A long journey loomed ahead, made no easier by your decision to bring an infant to sun and shadow.
Ha çocuk. Hravias'ı söylemedi. Abi Hravias'ın kestiğini kaçırdık ya. Kesin. Hravias'ın kestiğini kaçırdık. Obsidian. Paradoks pek bir şey yapmadı ki, son dakika çıktı ortaya. Daha nasıl? Daha hızlı gitmiyor. Geri gidiyor mu? Güzel. Ha, bunlar da şey mi? Backer'ların isimleri galiba. Kickstarter Backers. 77.000 tane isim olacak burada. 30 kişilik takım yaptı lan bu oyunu. Tabii 77.000. Tane de herif. Nicklere bakalım da. Oha. Bitmiyor abi. Neye geldik? P, R, S, W. Değil mi? W. Additional Kickstarter Backers. Şöyle bir girişini görelim. 96 saat. Şurada kombat bitmişti. Şuradaki son konuşmaların sırasındaki sayı sanırım. Ha, bu. Son quick save. 96 saat 39 dakika 19. Buna işte 97 saat diyebiliriz otomatik. Evet. Kravias'ın kestiğini kaçırmışız. Çok üzüldüm ya. Bütün elemanların şeyini yapmışız. Herhalde onunkini kaçırdık. Cık, geçmiş olsun. Neyse, sıkıntı değil. Tuğla'da bas. Evet. Ha. Abo. Ha, kapanıyor. Evet. Teşekkür ederim. Böyle bir oyunu bize sundukları için. Obsidian'a cidden efsane oyun oldu ya. Her dakikasından ayrı keyif aldık. Ve burada bitiriyoruz bakalım Pillars of Eternity'yi artık. Hadi. Artık ileride ne yaparız bilmiyorum. Hadi görüşmek üzere. Bay bay.